Nathan Sterling stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse apartment, gazing at the glittering city lights below. At 32 years old, he had everything most people dreamed of. His tech company was valued at billions, his name appeared regularly in business magazines, and his investment portfolio grew larger every quarter. Yet as he looked at his reflection in the glass, he saw only emptiness staring back. The penthouse was immaculate, designed by an award-winning architect, filled with expensive furniture and priceless art. But it felt cold, more like a museum than a home. Nathan walked through the rooms, his footsteps echoing on the marble floors, amplifying the silence that had become his constant companion. His phone buzzed with another invitation to an exclusive gala. Nathan sighed, knowing it would be another evening of fake smiles, shallow conversations, and people pretending to care about him while actually caring about his bank account. He declined the invitation with a quick message to Margaret, his assistant who had been trying to improve his social life for years. The weight of expectations. That evening, Nathan sat through a business dinner at an upscale restaurant. 5 executives surrounded him, discussing quarterly projections and market strategies. They laughed at his minor comments as if he had delivered comedy gold. Their eagerness to please him was exhausting. When the dinner finally ended, Nathan walked to his car, loosening his tie. The night air was cool, and dark clouds gathered overhead, threatening rain. His driver opened the door, but Nathan waved him off. He needed to walk, to clear his head, to feel something real. The rain started as a light drizzle, then quickly turned into a steady downpour. Nathan found himself in a neighborhood he rarely visited, where small shops and cozy cafes lined the streets. Through the rain-streaked windows, he could see ordinary people living ordinary lives, and for a moment, he envied them. Music in the rain, Nathan passed a small cafe called Rosa's Corner. Something made him stop. Through the window, he could see warm, amber lighting, mismatched furniture, and walls covered with local artwork. But what truly caught his attention was the sound drifting through the slightly open door. Someone was playing piano, and the melody was hauntingly beautiful. It was not a famous classical piece or a popular song. It was something original, filled with emotion that seemed to reach into his chest and squeeze his heart. Without thinking, Nathan pushed open the door and stepped inside. The cafe was nearly empty. An elderly couple sat in one corner sharing a slice of cake. A young man typed furiously on his laptop, earbuds blocking out the world. Behind the counter, a woman with silver-streaked hair smiled warmly at him. But Nathan's attention was fixed on the person at the piano in the far corner. She was young, probably in her mid-20s, with auburn hair pulled back in a messy bun. Her clothes were simple, a faded sweater and jeans, and her fingers moved across the keys with practiced grace. Her eyes were closed, and her expression held a mixture of joy and sadness that Nathan found mesmerizing. A moment, frozen in time. Nathan stood frozen just inside the doorway, water dripping from his expensive suit onto the worn wooden floor. He should have felt out of place in his designer clothes among the mismatched chairs and chipped coffee mugs, but instead, he felt more at home than he had in years. The woman finished her song, and for a moment, the cafe was silent except for the rain pattering against the windows. Then the elderly couple applauded softly, and the woman at the piano opened her eyes, a shy smile crossing her face. Rosa, the cafe owner, approached Nathan with a knowing look. "First time here? You look like you just discovered something precious." Nathan nodded, unable to form words. "Who is she?" "Claire Bennett," Rosa said warmly. "She plays here 3 nights a week. Best musician this neighborhood has ever seen, though the world does not know it yet." Nathan found himself walking toward an empty table near the piano, his usual caution abandoned. Rosa brought him coffee without asking, and he sat there, dripping, wet, watching as Claire began another melody. This one was lighter, more hopeful, and it made Nathan think of sunrise after a long, dark night. The first words. When Claire finished her second song, she stood to take a break. As she walked past Nathan's table, their eyes met. Hers were a striking shade of green, filled with warmth and curiosity. She paused, noticing his soaked suit and expensive watch. "Rough night?" she asked with a gentle smile. Nathan found himself smiling back, a genuine smile that felt strange on his face. "You could say that. Your playing is extraordinary." Claire's cheeks flushed slightly. "Thank you. Music is the one thing that makes sense when everything else feels chaotic." Nathan understood that feeling more than she could know. She started to walk away, but Nathan spoke again. "Do you take requests?" Claire turned back, tilting her head. "Depends on the request." "Play something that makes you happy," Nathan said. Claire studied him for a moment, and Nathan had the strange feeling that she could see past his expensive clothes to the lonely man underneath. Then she smiled, really smiled, and returned to the piano. A seed planted. The melody Claire played next was filled with pure joy. It danced and sparkled like sunlight on water, and Nathan felt something shift inside him. For the first time in years, he felt hope. Not the calculated hope of a successful business deal, but the wild, uncertain hope of something wonderful waiting just around the corner. When Nathan finally left the café 2 hours later, the rain had stopped. He stood on the sidewalk, looking back through the window at Claire, who was now chatting with Rosa while wiping down tables. He did not know her story, did not know if she would ever see him as anything more than a wet stranger who wandered in from the rain. But Nathan Sterling, the man who had given up on genuine connection, suddenly wanted to know everything about the woman whose music had reached the parts of him he thought were dead. Tomorrow, he decided, he would come back. Not as a billionaire, not as Nathan Sterling the tech mogul, but simply as a man who wanted to hear her play again. Nathan returned to Rosa's corner the next evening, this time dressed in simple jeans and a casual shirt. He had left his luxury watch at home and driven himself in a modest sedan he kept for rare occasions when he wanted anonymity. As he entered the café, Rosa greeted him with a knowing smile that suggested she saw right through his attempt at ordinary. Claire was already at the piano, her fingers dancing across the keys as she practiced. She wore a vintage dress with small flowers printed on it, and her hair fell loose around her shoulders. Nathan noticed paint stains on her fingers and wondered what other artistic talents she possessed. He chose the same table as the night before, and Rosa brought him coffee with a wink. "She is special, that one," Rosa whispered. "Treats everyone like family, works 3 jobs to support her brother through college, and still finds time to make beautiful music. Heart of pure gold." Nathan's chest tightened at this information. While he had been born into privilege and built his fortune on top of inherited wealth, Claire was struggling to survive while caring for someone she loved. The contrast made him feel both humbled and ashamed of how easily he had taken his advantages for granted. Conversations between songs. Over the following weeks, Nathan became a fixture at Rosa's corner. He arrived every evening Claire played, always. Sitting at the same table, always ordering the same coffee. At first, their interactions were brief. A smile exchanged across the room, a nod of acknowledgement, small comments about the weather or the music. But gradually, Claire began stopping at his table during her breaks. Their conversations started with music theory and favorite composers, then drifted to books, dreams, and the small observations that make life interesting. Claire talked about the way morning light filtered through her apartment window, the satisfaction of perfectly frothed milk at her waitressing job, the joy of hearing her brother laugh over the phone. Nathan found himself sharing things he had never told anyone, not the business accomplishments or financial victories, but the real feelings underneath. He spoke about loneliness disguised as success, about childhood memories of his father's rare smiles, about wondering if he had traded his soul for his empire. Claire listened without judgment, her green eyes reflecting genuine interest. She had a way of asking questions that made him think deeply about his answers. "When did you stop doing things just because they made you happy?" she asked one evening. Nathan realized he could not remember. The hidden generosity. Nathan learned that Claire worked as a waitress at a diner across town every morning, taught piano lessons to children in the afternoons, and played at Rosa's corner 3 evenings a week. Despite this exhausting schedule, she was always cheerful, always kind to everyone around her. He also discovered that she was trying to save money to record an album of her original compositions. "It's probably a silly dream," she said, with a self-deprecating laugh. "Nobody makes it as an independent musician anymore. But these songs feel important, like they need to exist in the world." Nathan wanted to write her a check for the entire recording cost right then, but he knew that would reveal his identity and change everything between them. Instead, he began, finding subtle ways to help. He mentioned Rosa's corner to James, his business partner, who organized a corporate event at the café, bringing in significant revenue. He anonymously purchased a high-quality digital piano and had it delivered to the café for Claire's use. When Claire discovered the new piano, her face lit up with such pure joy that Nathan felt his heart swell. She ran her hands over the keys, reverently, tears streaming down her cheeks. Rosa watched Nathan from behind the counter, her expression saying she knew exactly who the anonymous donor was. The growing connection one rainy evening. Similar to the first night they met, the café was nearly empty. Claire played a melancholy piece that made Nathan's throat tight with emotion. When she finished, she came to his table without prompting and sat down across from him. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said, her voice soft. Nathan nodded, his heart racing. "You never talk about your job, your family, or really anything about your daily life. Sometimes I wonder if you are real or if I imagined you." Nathan felt panic rising in his chest. He had been so careful to avoid revealing his identity, afraid that knowledge of his wealth would change how Claire saw him. But looking into her honest, open face, he hated the deception. "I have reasons for being private," he said carefully. "My life is complicated in ways that are hard to explain. But I promise you, this, us talking, me being here, it is the most real thing in my life right now." Claire studied him for a long moment, then reached across the table and placed her hand over his. "Okay," she said simply. "Everyone deserves to have spaces where they can just be themselves without explanation." The warmth of her hand on his sent electricity through Nathan's entire body. He turned his palm up, lacing his fingers with hers, and they sat like that for several minutes, connected in comfortable silence while rain drummed against the windows. The brothers' visit. The following week, Nathan arrived to find Claire animated with excitement. Tom, her younger brother, was visiting from college. Nathan met the young man, who had Claire's same warm smile and genuine nature. Tom studied engineering and talked enthusiastically about his classes, his dreams of designing sustainable housing, his gratitude for his sister's sacrifices. "Claire is the best person I know," Tom told Nathan while Claire was at the piano. "She gave up her own dreams to put me through school. Our parents died when I was 15, and Claire was only 21. She could have pursued her music career, moved to New York or Los Angeles, but she stayed here to take care of me." Nathan felt his admiration for Claire deepen into something more profound. She had chosen love and responsibility over personal ambition, had given freely without resentment. He thought of his own life, where he had always put business first, where relationships were strategic and emotions were weaknesses to be managed. Watching Claire and Tom together, seeing the easy affection and obvious bond between them, Nathan realized what he had been missing: connection, family, love that asked nothing in return. The turning point late. That evening, after Tom had left and the cafe was closing, Claire walked Nathan to the door. They stood on the sidewalk under the streetlight, neither wanting to say goodnight. The spring air was warm and fragrant with blooming flowers from the shop next door. "Nathan," Claire said, looking up at him with those remarkable green eyes. "I know we have not known each other very long, but you have become incredibly important to me. These evenings, our conversations, they are what I look forward to most." Nathan's heart hammered in his chest. "Claire, I need to tell you something. I'm not exactly who you think I am. My life, my circumstances, they are very different from what you might imagine." Claire placed her hand on his chest, right over his racing heart. "I do not care about your circumstances," she said firmly. "I care about this person, the one who listens to my music, who asks thoughtful questions, who makes me feel seen and valued. That is who you are to me." Unable to resist any longer, Nathan cupped her face in his hands and kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, asking permission. But when Claire melted into him, her arms wrapping around his neck, the kiss deepened into something that felt like coming home after a lifetime of wandering. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Nathan rested his forehead against hers. "I am falling in love with you," he whispered, the truth escaping before he could stop. Claire smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Good," she whispered back, "because I already fell." The shadow of reality as Nathan drove home that night, joy and fear warred within him. He loved Claire with an intensity that shocked him, but he knew the truth could not stay hidden much longer. Soon she would discover that the quiet, private man she had fallen for was actually Nathan Sterling, one of the wealthiest and most recognized businessmen in the country. Would she understand why he had hidden his identity? Would she believe that his feelings were genuine and not some game played by a bored billionaire? Or would the revelation destroy the fragile, beautiful thing they had built together? Nathan's phone buzzed with messages from Margaret about urgent business matters, from his mother about another society event he was expected to attend, from board members demanding his attention. The real world was calling him back, and he knew he could not hide in the sanctuary of Rosa's corner forever. But for tonight, he allowed himself to hold on to the memory of Claire's kiss, the sound of her laughter, the way her hand fit perfectly in his. Tomorrow would bring its challenges. Tonight he would simply be grateful that somehow, impossibly, he had found something worth more than all his billions. Love. Nathan knew he had to tell Claire the truth. For 3 weeks they had been together, meeting at the cafe, taking walks through the park, sharing meals at small restaurants where nobody recognized him. It was the happiest Nathan had been in his entire life. But the deception was eating him alive. He planned to tell her on Saturday evening, after her performance at Rosa's corner. But fate had other plans. That Thursday afternoon, Claire was working her shift at the diner when a group of business executives came in for lunch. They were loud, discussing a major deal with Sterling Technologies, and one of them pulled up an article on his tablet showing Nathan's photograph. Claire, refilling their coffee, glanced at the screen and froze. The man in the photo was unmistakably Nathan, but the caption read, "Tech billionaire Nathan Sterling closes historic merger." Her hands trembled as she finished pouring, her mind racing. This had to be a mistake, some strange coincidence. But when she returned to the counter and searched his name on her phone, hundreds of articles appeared. Photos of Nathan at charity galas, business conferences, society events. Nathan Sterling, founder and CEO of Sterling Technologies, estimated net worth in the billions. The quiet private man she loved was one of the most powerful people in the entire city. Claire's shift passed in a blur. Hurt and confusion warred within her. Why had he lied? Was this some kind of game rich people played, pretending to be ordinary, to see how regular folks lived? Had any of it been real? The confrontation. That evening, Claire went to Rosa's corner early, before Nathan usually arrived. She sat at the piano but could not bring herself to play. Her fingers rested on the keys.
Lifeless.
Rosa noticed immediately and came over with concern. "What happened, sweetheart? You look like your world just tilted sideways." Claire showed Rosa the articles on her phone. Rosa sighed deeply, sitting down beside her on the piano bench. "I knew who he was from the first night," Rosa admitted. "But I also saw something else. I saw a lonely man who lit up like sunrise the moment he heard your music. I saw someone falling in love with you for all the right reasons." "But he lied to me," Claire whispered, tears forming in her eyes. "Every day, he pretended to be someone else. How can I trust anything between us was real?" Before Rosa could respond, the cafe door opened. Nathan entered, his expression brightening when he saw Claire, but his smile faded immediately when he saw her face. He knew in that instant that she had discovered the truth. Claire stood up, her hands clenched at her sides. "Nathan Sterling," she said, her voice shaking. "That is your real name, right? Or is that another lie?" Nathan felt his world crumbling. "Claire, please let me explain." "There is no explanation that makes this okay," Claire said, her voice rising. "I told you everything about my life, my struggles, my dreams, my fears. And the whole time, you were lying about who you are." "I never lied." "About my feelings," Nathan said desperately, moving closer. "Everything between us, every conversation, every moment, that was real. I just wanted to be seen as a person, not as a bank account." The pain of different worlds, Claire laughed bitterly, tears now streaming down her face. "Do you have any idea how that sounds? Poor little billionaire, so misunderstood. While I was worried about making rent, about paying for Tom's textbooks, you were probably deciding which mansion to visit for the weekend." Nathan flinched at the accuracy of her words. "You are right," he said quietly. "I cannot know what your struggles feel like. But I do know what loneliness feels like. I know what it is like to be surrounded by people who only see your money. And I know what it felt like to finally meet someone who saw me, really saw me, for the first time in my life." Claire wiped her tears angrily. "You should have told me from the beginning. You should have given me the choice." Nathan knew she was right. "I was afraid. Afraid that if you knew, everything would change. That you would treat me differently or worse. That you would think I was playing some cruel game." "So instead, you played a different cruel game," Claire said. "You made me fall in love with someone who does not exist." "He does exist," Nathan insisted. "The man you fell in love with. That is who I really am. The rest is just circumstances I was born into." Claire shook her head, grabbing her bag. "I need time to think. Please do not follow me." She walked out of the cafe, leaving Nathan standing alone in the middle of the room, his heart shattered into pieces. The interference. The next morning, Nathan sat in his office, unable to focus on anything. Margaret entered with her usual efficiency, but stopped when she saw his face. "What happened?" she asked gently. Nathan told her everything, his voice hollow. Margaret listened, then sat down across from him. "Mr. Sterling, in all the years I have worked for you, I have never seen you truly happy until these past few months. That young woman changed something in you. Now the question is, what are you going to do about it?" Before Nathan could answer, his mother, Victoria Sterling, swept into the office unannounced. She was elegant and intimidating, dressed in a designer suit that cost more than most people's cars. "Nathan, darling, I have been hearing the most disturbing rumors. Something about you spending time in some shabby cafe with a waitress? Nathan stood up, his jaw tight. Her name is Claire, and she is not just a waitress. She is a brilliant musician and the most genuine person I have ever met. Victoria laughed coldly. How charming. Another one of your charity projects? Nathan, you have responsibilities. The sterling name means something. You cannot throw it away on some fantasy. This is not a fantasy, Nathan said firmly. I love her. Victoria's expression hardened. Love is a luxury people like us cannot afford. You will end this nonsense. Attend the Hamilton Gala this weekend with Elizabeth Worthington like we planned, and remember who you are. The grand gesture for 2 days, Nathan respected Claire's request for space. Though it nearly killed him, he threw himself into work, but nothing held meaning anymore. On Saturday evening, James came to his penthouse and found him staring out the window at the city lights. You look terrible, James said bluntly. Nathan, I have known you since we were kids. I have never seen you care about anything the way you care about this woman. So what are you going to do? Nathan turned to his friend. I am going to fight for her. I am going to show her that what we have is worth more than any amount of money or social status. James grinned. Now that is the Nathan I remember, the one who never gave up on what mattered. What do you need? Nathan outlined his plan, and James immediately started making calls. By Sunday afternoon, everything was in place. Nathan drove to Rosa's corner, his heart pounding. Claire was there, sitting at the piano, but not playing. She looked exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. When she saw him enter, she stood up. Nathan, I asked for space. I know, Nathan said, but I needed to show you something. Will you come with me? Just for an hour. If after that you never want to see me again, I will respect that. Claire hesitated, then nodded slowly. They drove in silence to a part of the city Claire had never visited, where elegant buildings housed music studios and concert halls. Nathan led her into one particular building and up to the 3rd floor. The truth revealed. He opened a door to reveal a fully equipped recording studio, state-of-the-art equipment lining the walls. Standing inside were 5 of the best session musicians in the city, along with a renowned producer Claire recognized from album credits she had studied for years. Nathan, what is this? Claire breathed. This is your dream, Nathan said quietly. I contacted Tom, explained everything, and he helped me understand what you really needed. This studio is yours for the next 3 months. These musicians will help you record your album. The producer has agreed to work with you, and every penny of profit from the album will be yours alone. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Nathan, I cannot accept this. It is too much. It is not nearly enough, Nathan said. But it is a start. Claire, I was wrong to hide who I was. I was a coward, afraid of being hurt. But you deserve someone brave enough to be completely honest, even when it is terrifying. He took her hands in his. I am Nathan Sterling. I run a tech company. I have more money than I know what to do with, and I attend boring events where people talk about things that do not matter. But I am also just Nathan, a man who was slowly dying inside until he heard you play piano on a rainy night. I am someone who laughs at your terrible jokes, who thinks your paint-stained fingers are beautiful, who wants to spend every evening listening to you create magic. Claire looked around the studio, then back at Nathan. Her expression was conflicted, emotions playing across her face. This is amazing, she said slowly. But Nathan, this does not fix the broken trust between us. I know, Nathan said, and I am not trying to buy your forgiveness. This studio is yours whether you take me back or not. I just wanted to show you that I see your dreams as valuable, that I believe in your talent. Claire was quiet for a long moment. The musicians and producer quietly excused themselves, sensing the need for privacy. When they were alone, Claire finally spoke. I was so hurt when I found out the truth. Not just because you lied, but because I thought everything between us was some game. that you were slumming it, playing pretend with the poor musician. Never, Nathan said fiercely. You are not a game or a project. You are the person who made me remember what it feels like to be human, to want something more than the next business deal, to believe that life can be beautiful instead of just successful. Claire took a deep breath. My life is messy, Nathan. I have student loan debt, a beat-up car that breaks down constantly, and I cannot afford the kinds of clothes people in your world wear. If we do this, if we try to make this work, there will be people who judge me, who say I am with you for your money. Let them talk, Nathan said. I spent my whole life caring what people thought, and it made me miserable. The only opinion that matters to me is yours. Claire stepped closer to him, reaching up to touch his face. I need you to promise me something. No more secrets. No more hiding. If we are going to be together, it has to be as equals. Even if our bank accounts say otherwise. Nathan covered her hand with his. I promise. Complete honesty, even when it is uncomfortable, even when I am afraid. Claire smiled, the first real smile he had seen from her in days. Then I guess we should give this a real chance, because despite everything, despite the lies and the hurt, I still love you. You, Nathan. Not Nathan Sterling, the billionaire, just you. A new beginning. Nathan pulled her into his arms, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world, which to him she was. They stood like that for a long time, healing the wounds between them with presence and promise. When they finally pulled apart, Claire looked around the studio with wonder. So when do I start recording? Nathan laughed, the sound full of relief and joy. Whenever you want. The musicians are on standby and the producer cleared his schedule. For you. Claire sat down at the piano in the corner of the studio, running her fingers over the keys. She began to play, and the melody that emerged was different from anything Nathan had heard from her before. It was hopeful and strong, with undertones of resilience. This is new, Nathan said, sitting beside her on the bench. I wrote it this week, Claire admitted. During all those hours I was angry and hurt and confused. I called it second chances. Because that is what we are, right? A second chance at getting it right. Nathan kissed her temple. We are going to get it right this time. I promise you that. Over the following months, Claire recorded her album while Nathan learned to balance his business responsibilities with being present in a real relationship. He introduced Claire to his world slowly, starting with James and Margaret, who both adored her immediately. His mother remained disapproving, but Nathan found he no longer needed her approval to be happy. The album release, 6 months later, Claire's album released independently online. Within a week, it had gone viral, with music critics praising her original compositions and emotional depth. Major labels started calling with offers, but Claire, with Nathan's support, chose to remain independent and maintain creative control. The album release party was held at Rosa's corner, not at some fancy venue Victoria had suggested. The small café was packed with friends, family, and music lovers who had discovered Claire's talent. Tom gave a speech about his sister's dedication and talent, thanking Nathan for believing in her when the world had not yet caught up. Claire performed 3 songs live, and as Nathan watched her shine in front of the crowd, he marveled at how much his life had changed. A year ago, he had been empty, going through motions without meaning. Now, he had purpose beyond profit margins. He had love, genuine connection, and someone who challenged him to be better every single day. Forever starts now. That night, after the party ended, and they stood alone in the cafe where they had first met, Nathan got down on one knee. Claire gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Claire Bennett, Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. You walked into my life when I did not even know I was lost. You showed me that real wealth is not measured in dollars, but in moments that take your breath away, in laughter shared over terrible diner coffee, in music that reaches into your soul, in love that asks you to be brave. He pulled out a simple ring, elegant, but not ostentatious. Will you marry me? Not Nathan Sterling, the billionaire, but Nathan, the man who loves you more than he thought possible. Claire dropped to her knees. In front of him, tears streaming down her face. Yes, she said. Yes to second chances, yes to building something real, yes to you, just you. They held each other on the floor of Rosa's corner, where music and fate had brought them together. Outside, the city continued its endless motion, but inside, two people had found what so many spend lifetimes searching for. True love, that transcends circumstance, connection, that defies expectation, and the courage to choose each other again and again. Nathan had rejected everyone who had tried to win him through status or strategy, but Claire, who had never tried to win him at all, had claimed his heart completely. And in the most unexpected place, surrounded by mismatched furniture and the lingering scent of coffee, the billionaire who had everything finally found the one thing money could never buy: a home in another person's heart. The end.